Good morning, Bucknutters. Welcome to the Bucknuts Morning 5 here on Friday, November 14th, 2025. I am Dave Biddle. Very happy joined by Jonah Booker, as usual on Fridays. BTA Fridays. Good to see you as always, JB. How you doing?
I'm doing well. And yourself?
I'm doing great. It's going to be balmy tomorrow. You know, they're bringing the California weather with them out here. It's going to be in the 60s at kickoff. I mean, it was like in the low 30s here for a lot of the week. So I'll definitely take the nice weather tomorrow. So the Buckeyes favored by merely 31 and a half points tomorrow against UCLA. The first time these two teams have played since 2001. I remember this game really well because it was Tressel's first season. It was the first game after 9/11. The games that were scheduled for that next Saturday got postponed. So I think they were supposed to play San Jose State. That got moved to later in the year. So they went out to the Rose Bowl after taking a week off. It was just Tressel's first game. The offense couldn't do anything. Defense played well. They haven't played since. First time Ohio State and UCLA have played in 24 years. All right, brass tacks. Here we go. It's time for our world famous predictions. All right. We'll do it as usual. We'll go 3, 2, 1, and I'll put mine up and you can say yours. All right, here we go. Ohio State UCLA predictions. 3, 2, 1.
38-7.
45-3.
There we go.
38-7. Okay, I got it. Let me adjust that. You have 38-7. Yeah, I was a little too ambitious last week, so I decided to get back on that horse. I think they're going to take it to them because I noticed Ohio State scored in the 30s each of their last 4 games. This is the game they're going to get in the 40s. In my opinion.
But we're close. We're right up there.
We are. We're very close. You have 38. Remind me, 38-7, right?
38-7. But as far as the total points, we're right there. 3 points different.
That's right. So how does our friend Tom do it with the does he go by total points how close we are, or like how the margin of victory, or a little bit of both?
I think he does it by total points, how close.
Just total points, not like okay.
We'll have to ask him. But I think
both should be factored in.
We got them both covering.
Yeah, that's true. Well, 31 and a half is what I saw this morning. It's ticked up. Yeah, because I did a long shot parlay bet with Ohio State covering that spread. It's a 4-leg parlay with what's going to be my best bet. I'll save that. And then 2 others. I don't know why I did this because this is a long shot. It's like $15 to pay out like $250 or something. So I got a profit boost with it. The other one is tomorrow I have Arizona plus 6.5 at Cincinnati. Cincinnati's been really good this year, but 6.5. Yeah. I think Cincinnati's going to win, but it'll be close. And then tonight, I don't know why I did this, but I threw this one in there. Minnesota plus 25.5 at Oregon. Minnesota's been dreadful on the road, pretty good at home. They lost to Cal on the road. They just get hammered anytime they go on the road. So, of course, I'm picking Minnesota. Again, it's a long shot parlay. But,
right.
But yeah, I have the Buckeyes covering.
We're close. We're close. See, man, I'm like, maybe I should take it up one just so that they can get that cover. Because, I mean, they're a covering machine right now. And I do agree with you. I do think that they're going to try to put up some stats in this particular game, with Julian saying right there in contention, in a pretty much all betting markets are saying a 2-horse race with Mendoza. I think Ohio State, they're keenly aware of that, and they're going to try to get him the stats accordingly. Now, the question is, will they have a healthy Carnell Tate out there as well? And if that's the case, then I still think Julian's going to throw over that 300 mark. But I think you're talking about the touchdowns to add on to it as far as the Heismans.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think that this is a game where they're going to let the offense get going a little bit. And who knows what would have happened last week if that first touchdown would have counted. I thought that was a ticky-tack call, but what are you going to do? But yeah, I really think they're going to get after him this week for sure. And like you mentioned, I mean, Coach Day can't come out and say he's trying to get Julian the Heisman, but that'd be great for the program and be feather in his cap as a head coach to have a Heisman winner, especially a redshirt freshman.
Right.
Win the Heisman.
I mean, now if you get a redshirt freshman as a Heisman Trophy winner, talking about recruiting, like with some of these younger guys, like, hey, you got an opportunity to play with the Heisman Trophy winner, or even a Heisman Trophy finalist. That's still going to be a big cap. And I will say this, though. Nobody really talks about quarterback coach Billy Fessler. and he's a younger guy. Will Howard last year credited Billy Fessler for helping with his development and getting him in the right mental space. Now you look at Julian Sandave, and you put back-to-back years with Will Howard playing the best ball of his career, and then Julian Sane being a potential Heisman champion or winner. I think Billy Fessler deserves a lot of credit for the
Yeah, he's
job
been a
that
good
he's been
hire.
doing.
Yeah, that was kind of like out of nowhere almost. Very young guy too. I don't know if he's now turned 30. I think he's 29. He's either 29 or 30.
Yeah.
Very young guy, sharp dude.
And
I mean, Ryan Day's put together a fantastic coaching staff.
And he came from UCLA with Chip.
Yeah, that's right.
He was Chip's guy that came over from UCLA, and originally they just kind of, I think at first were just bringing him over as like an analyst to be part of the installation of Chip's offense, and then he came in, impressed everybody, and it's like, hey, we're going to go ahead and elevate you to the actual quarterback coach. We're going to take that off Ryan Day's plate, because you remember at the time Ryan Day was basically your quarterback coach, head coach, and he was having to get involved with the defense. Like, he was spread entirely too thin. And that's another thing we have to touch on too. I think somebody in the media asked Ryan Day how much involved he's been with the defense.
Yep. He said not much.
Not much.
That was on the coaches show yesterday. He might have talked about it previously. I think that was Jim Lachey. It was either Jim Lachey or Paul Keels that asked him. He set it up perfectly. He's like, last year you mentioned that you had to. This is my Paul Keels voice. Last year you mentioned you had to really get involved with the defense. How much have you been involved with the defense this year, Coach? Not much at all. He's like, I'll kind of let Matty P do whatever he wants to do.
Right. Because you remember last year he was always talking about, I need to get involved. I need to go in there and see what's going on, roll up my sleeves and try to jump in there. Now he just like, Matt Patricia got this. Like that right there tells you the value of Matt Patricia, to where you can trust him, and he's delivering a product that is number one defense in college football. So now you allow Ryan Day to spend the bulk of his time working with the offense and Brian Hartline and Billy Fessler and Bo and those guys, and coming up with a game plan. Like, here's the fascinating thing about it to me, Dave, is he's spending all of this time with the offense, and he's saying we have yet to put the pedal down as far as opening it up. Like, I'm curious, like, what's in the fold, man? Like, to me, if they just all of a sudden just come out tempo, just firing nukes on Michigan, man, I'm going to be like a kid on Christmas, like, holy smokes, this is what it looks like when you actually open up the throttle on the Lamborghini.
That's all I want for Christmas, is a win on November 29th. And if it's a blowout win, even better. That's all I want. It's an early Christmas present on November 29th. All right, it's crazy. We're only 15 days away from that. Brutus has been keeping us updated throughout the offseason on how many days. He's getting his Jim Tressel on. He always knows how many days until the game. I absolutely love it. All right, one more thing before we get to best bets. You touched on this a little bit. We also have a question. Hayden Custom Woodworks. Ooh, Custom Woodworks. All right, message me privately. I want you to do. No, I'm kidding. He says, does Carnell Tate play tomorrow? I think so. He could have played last week. We all know. I mean, he was dressed in his helmet. This is why risk it. But now it's a week later. He's got 2 games ever left at Ohio Stadium. One's tomorrow night, and then one is against Rutgers. He's not missing either of these 2 games. Now, if he's actually hurt, then that would be different. You're not going to play him just because he only has 2 games left. But last week was just a precaution. Same thing with like Ty Malone and some of those other guys. They could have played last week if it was like the Michigan game. So yeah, I think he's going to play tomorrow.
That's a great point about him only having 2 more games left in the shoe, especially at nighttime. This is going to be his last night game at the shoe as well. So I definitely think Carnell Tate's going to be out there and ready to roll tomorrow. So I'm looking forward to him and Jeremiah having a great game. This is one of those games, Dave, where you say, hey, man, this is a stat padding game, especially when you got so many guys in contention for major awards. Like, time to pad the stats right now. Like, we need Julian to go once again over 300, 3 TDs. Let Jeremiah and Carnell knock on the door for 100 plus again. But here's the one thing. According to the national media, Dave, I seriously doubt that Julian Saint's going to have a Heisman moment because he's not going to have to try to dig his team out of a hole to make a miraculous catch by his wide receivers, and that being deemed as a Heisman moment because he played so bad early on in the game that he had to dig them out of a hole.
Thank you. Amen. Hallelujah. Seriously. Like, what do you want Julian to do? Go back and like struggle against Penn State instead of just absolutely torching Jim Knowles' defense throughout the game? His passing rating was almost perfect in that game. You look back, it was at 99.1. Mendoza's was in the 70s somewhere against that same Penn State defense. Everybody's like, yep, you won the Heisman. It's like, give me a break. It'll take care of itself, though. It'll take care of itself.
83% completion percentage against Penn State, and just absolutely just went bombs over Baghdad on them on Jim Knowles' defense, and that's not worthy of a Heisman moment.
Yeah, exactly. Like that. How about he's had Heisman moments? Tell you what, his Heisman moment will be beating Michigan and then beating Indiana the next week in the Big Ten championship game. It'll take care of itself. Buckeyes win out. It'll take care of itself. I don't think I'm not worried about that at all. And I think we're going to get a lot of guys back tomorrow. Josh Padilla is the one that I'm keeping a close eye on. We'll have the availability report tomorrow. I'm curious. Of course, a lot of those guys weren't even on the availability report last week. So, because they were technically available, so they didn't even put them on there as questionable. But hopefully a lot of those guys are back, like Padilla, Quincy Porter, all those guys, Ty Malone, all those guys. The one Edricks step up though.
Yeah, the one Greg over here is asking about Tegra. And I'm thinking, and I was thinking to myself, Dave, like, how long have we been fielding this question? And nothing against you, Greg, but it's just one of those situations to where, like, after a while, man, can we please just have Josh in there or somebody who's going to be able to play the full game so that every week the right guard spot is not a point of question, especially to Ryan Day? I mean, you guys in the media have been asking Ryan Day about Tegra in the right guard spot, man, for 2 years going on right now. Like, at what point do you say, okay, this is clearly the weakest link on the offensive line? If they can figure it out, this running game has the potential to really take the next step. But right now, it kind of feels like they're stuck in the mud until they figure out what to do with that right guard spot. Like, it's been an ongoing question to Ryan Day from the media for weeks and months now.
Yeah, and like it's one of those things, like, you know, it's pretty simple when you really break it down. Like, they're not going to throw one of their guys under the bus, and I love that they're not going to throw one of their guys under the bus publicly. But like, Tegra's the only one that rotates out of the game when the game's still on the line. Nobody else does, but he does, and it's been that way all year. First it was Onionwa, then it was Padilla. I'll tell you what, Ian Moore played well last week. I want to get junkyard dog Phil Daniels back. There's no doubt about that. But Ian Moore is a big, physical, tough guy who has 3 years of eligibility left after this one. He's only
looked great. Yeah, he looked great. You see that clip when Tegra got James Peoples blown up on the screen because he just absolutely whiffed. Like, you see on the sideline, like Ryan Day just threw his hands up in disgust, like oh my God, here we go again. And then Bowen just like bends over, is like, no, because Bowen's thinking to himself, like, man, I'm about to get chewed out again by Coach Day because of Tegra again. But it's hilarious seeing like their reactions on the sidelines in those clips, and I'm just like, holy smokes! Like, does the kid need LASIK? Like, with all due respect, like, the dude's 2 yards in front of you, man. Like, you're a massive human being. Like, just throw your body in him, and if he just gets a paw on the guy, it's a touchdown. It was actually a great call. It was wide open. And if he just gets just his bare paw on somebody, James is just, skipping into the end zone for another stat padding for Julian Saint right there.
I don't know if one of them, if it's even feasible. It's easy to say, oh, he plays right tackle, he can kick inside to guard. Donovan Jackson was a guard, he kicked out to left tackle. It's never that easy. It's usually not that easy. But I do wonder, because one of them could do it. I'm not saying that they definitely will or would. But what if Ian Moore, they feel like he's too good to keep off the field, or Phillip Daniels could kick inside to right guard?
Yeah. See, I always harp back to their own words, Dave. And what do they say when it comes to the offensive line? We need to play the 5 best offensive linemen. Do you consider Tegra as being one of the 5 best offensive linemen? in that room. I mean, some people may say yes. I mean, we've seen enough evidence to say probably not when Josh Padilla is healthy. I mean, is Ian Moore in the situation to where he can be one of the 5 best offensive linemen? I think the potential is there. I think he just needs an opportunity. I don't know if he's played right guard, but the good news is you have 2 games right now to where I will use these 2 games against UCLA and Rutgers to find out. That's for sure. I mean, you're going to be up if you can get Ian Moore in there just to get a peek to see what he looks like at the right guard spot. I would not be against that, but either way, they have to solidify that right guard spot. Like, I'm not going to lie, Dave. Tegra's scared. He scares the mess out of me going into this Michigan game because they're good enough up front to where they can exploit him and it can totally blow up the entire run game if they decide that, hey, we're going to run at least a handful of plays into a brick wall up the middle. Like, if you're running by banking that you're going to run behind Tegra at that right guard spot against Michigan, makes me a little nervous, just a little bit, considering maybe it's PTSD of what happened last year. But yeah, I know Michigan, they don't have the 2 first rounders at the defensive tackles, but we've seen enough from the run game to say, hey, if you can't get that right guard spot figured out, the run game is not going to take that next step like it has the potential. Like, it feels like it's bubbling at the top of the pot and it's ready to explode, but they can't get the lid off. And the lid that's keeping them from exploding is that right guard spot.
At least they have options. Hopefully, if Padilla comes back, he'd be a great option. I think he already would be starting if he didn't get banged up. I thought he was on the verge of taking over that job because he was grading out well. He was rotating in and playing better than Tegra. Now maybe Phillip Daniels could kick inside or Ian Moore. I think Phillip Daniels might be the better candidate to kick inside than Ian Moore. Ian Moore has a tackle body. Daniels kind of does. He has a right tackle body, I guess. All right, John, I want to know more information about, because I've heard this. We're talking about forecasts 15 days away, man. Even 7-day forecasts, I'm like, even the next day, a lot of times they screw it up. So, but I've heard this from other people. They're saying it's going to be bad weather likely in Ann Arbor 15 days from now. John on YouTube says beautiful weather forecast for tomorrow night, but still in the cards for a bad weather Michigan game. I don't know. We put in a lot of validity in weather forecast 15 days out.
Right. I don't know, Dave. I mean, you guys in the Midwest, your weather's bipolar, man. Like, you got snow early on this week, and now it's going to be in the 60s in the weekend. So you never know what type of weather that you're going to get. You always have to go into the Michigan game with an idea that it's going to be cold, and chances are you're probably going to have bad weather. No different than when Ohio State, it was freezing cold for the playoff game. Like, that's just part of the game. Like, you got to be able to prepare, execute at a high level. Yes, it plays a little bit into Michigan's hand because they want to be able to play you in the phone booth. They want to be able to slow you down. Michigan's biggest kryptonite is teams that jump out on them. If you jump out on Michigan, they're going to be extremely uncomfortable. They do not want to see their freshman quarterback having to play from behind. That's when he's really going to struggle. But it's going to be a situation to Ryan Day. It's going to come down to his game plan and how they decide to operate it. Because if I would be beyond flabbergasted if they implemented anything what we saw last year. I truly believe Ryan Day has learned this lesson. Even if you can't, throw 40, 50-yard bombs down the field because of the weather, that doesn't mean that you can't find creative ways to get your first-round wide receivers to ball within an intermediary passing game where it's 10 to 15 yards. Like, just go out there and play, man. The game is the game. For the history of Ohio State, Michigan, there's probably only been, a handful, dozen times past where it's been great weather. It's always been a little bit of sketchy regardless.
Yeah, and I agree with people in the comments. Like, it doesn't, it's bad weather for both teams. People are saying that's true. It doesn't matter what the weather is. You got to win. I agree. Who cares? Just win, baby. I agree. Al Davis, just win, baby. I agree with that. It's just Ohio State tends to play better in better weather. But I tell you what, anytime I start to get concerned about the game, I think about right guard. And
Right.
what if it's a nasty weather day and they can't really throw the ball like they want to? And I think about that. I'm like, okay, then I think about Ohio State's defense.
Yeah.
Good luck when you're a one-dimensional offense moving the
Right.
ball against this Ohio State defense.
That's my exact. I was thinking the exact same thing, Dave, and I was going to say that when you look at this Michigan team, Michigan is already struggling throwing the football in good weather. I mean, they went out to sunny California and struggled to throw the football. They had one long pass from like a busted coverage. But if you're talking about this Michigan team, they're having to rely on Jordan Marshall because Justin Haynes will most likely not be back for that game. If he's in a one of those scooters and he had surgery on his foot, he's not going to be back. So what does that mean? If you're having bad weather in Ann Arbor, one, Bryce Underwood can't throw the football as is in good weather. He's not going to throw the ball in bad weather. So they're definitely not going to put him in a situation. If I'm Matt Patricia, I'm 9 in a box. If you can't throw when the weather's good and you're not going to be able to throw when the weather's bad and your only hope is Jordan Marshall breaking long runs and controlling the clock, we're 9 in a box all day until you can prove to me that you can throw it over our heads. So that also plays in Ohio State's favor as well. So that's why I said, Dave, if you can score 21 on offense, you're going to beat Michigan this year.
We have some people in the chat saying just score 14 and they'll win. I like your idea. Let's score at least 21. Yeah, Michigan's not scoring 20 points on this defense. I don't know if they can get double digits. But yeah, just go into the game, think if we score 21 points, we're going to win this game. Just win, baby. All right, a couple more things. We're going to do best bet. Then I want to get your thoughts on, speaking of Michigan, I actually agree with them on something about the private capital situation. But it's a complicated situation. I'm going to finish the show talking about that. But let's get to our best bet in addition to Ohio State. All right, I have Pitt plus 12.5 tomorrow at home against Notre Dame. Now, I do think Notre Dame's going to win, but that's a lot of points. Pitt, since they put that true freshman quarterback in from Ohio, they've been pretty good. They started off the year really shaky. They lost to West Virginia, who's terrible this year. Then they put this true freshman in from Ohio, and he's been really good. Now, he hasn't faced a team like this. So I do think Notre Dame's going to win, but 12.5 is a lot. I think Pitt at home, this was in South Bend, I wouldn't feel the same way. I think Pitt at home is going to cover that spread. Watch Notre Dame win by 30. I tell you, I'm back to even though in my best bet. So which is
we're tied up, Dave. So I'm on the losing streak. You're getting hot. So this is this right here is moving day when it comes to Saturday. So we both hopefully go in the right direction. But I like that 12.5 pick. College game day is going to be there. Pitt's offense is explosive enough to be able to get into a track meet. The one thing is they're predicting rain up in Pittsburgh for that game. I was looking at the forecast because I was also looking at that game, the first half over 27.5 points. I was actually considering that as one of my best bets as well.
Interesting.
Because I was thinking both teams have explosive offenses. They're going to be able to move the football here, but I like that 12.5. I think I'm going to tell you on that one. My best bet, I'm going Alabama minus 5.5 versus Oklahoma. I think Oklahoma is going to come in with a stout defense, but I don't think they have enough offense to keep up with Alabama. Alabama right now, I think they're locked in, focused because they are on the cusp of clinching a SEC championship berth. They're at home against Oklahoma. I know Oklahoma's coming off a bye here, but give me 5.5 Alabama versus Oklahoma. Best bet.
We have people in the chat disagreeing with me. Say ND's going to cover. Yeah, I mean, it's my best bet, so there's a really good chance it's going to go wrong. But we'll see. Pitt's been pretty good, and I think they're going to cover that spread tomorrow. All right, this private capital situation, it's interesting. Michigan wants no part of it, and I agree with them. And Ohio State, while publicly is not going to say, yeah, we definitely won. And there's been a lot of reporting recently. Ross Dellinger does a great job. He did a piece on it a couple days ago. The Athletic did a piece I read it this morning. It either came out last night or this morning about how Michigan is completely against it. And their board of trustees wants nothing to do with it. They have an interim president. So this is being decided by their board of trustees, not by the AD or the school president. Like most schools, it's the school president and the AD. And and the board of trustees, all collaborating. Michigan is just the board of trustees. They want nothing to do with it. Here's the thing about Ohio State. People are like, well, why would Ohio State want to do this? Again, I don't think they should, but here's why. If Ohio State wants to have the largest athletic department in the country and fund 36 varsity sports, 34 of which lose money. 2 sports make money, football, of course, and men's basketball. Men's basketball doesn't make that much. And yeah, football brings in a lot of money, but football also has to pay for football in addition to all those 34 other sports. They have to pay for Ryan Day's salary. They have to pay for Matt Patricia's salary. They have to pay their players now. So if Ohio State wants to keep all of these Olympic sports, non-revenue sports, these sports that are losing money, then they probably feel like they need this infusion of capital. I still wouldn't do it. I think that it's inevitable. Right. And I feel bad saying this because I like a lot of these sports. Not all of them. Some of these non-revenue sports will get cut in the next 5 years or so, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. I do not like the deal. I mean, when you read the story, there's board of trustees saying that a lot of the details, the Big Ten office, they've been trying to keep from them. So you have to ask yourself, like, the Big Ten commissioner, what's his cut in this? How come a lot of the details, the fine print hasn't been shared to a lot of the board of trustees? With Ohio State, I truly believe it's a mistake getting into this type of deal, especially with the changing landscape of college football and how much is changing as far as your rights. So signing over some of your rights over to somebody for that long, when you look at the money, yes, Ohio State's going to be getting a larger cut, but it's not like a substantial amount to say, hey, we should be signing up with doing the same type of deals with the Rutgers of the world, which I will understand. Those smaller schools, they probably need a injection of cash. For a big brand like Ohio State, they're in a rock and a hard place, because I commend them for being honorable by wanting to keep all of their sports. When you look at colleges around the country, they're cutting a lot of these Olympic sports. Ohio State's trying to do right by their student athletes by keeping this. And I believe Ted Carter this year actually injected more scholarships to some of the Olympic sports. So that right there itself is going to be costly. They're also trying to do renovations to the shoe. Ross Bjork has talked about they're trying to do a new football only facility because the Woody is extremely outdated. So that right there, that's going to be a big ticket item. So Ohio State, they need money. I mean, the athletic department, they were operating at a deficit, as you mentioned, at one of the last reports. So I understand why they need an injection of cash. I just wish that they were able to find another revenue besides signing up to this particular deal. Like, I truly believe, like, the big brands like Ohio State, USC, Michigan, Oregon will we consider Indiana in that realm now that they're considered the big dogs?
No, Penn State is, though. It's the tiers would be Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State would be the first tier. They would get like $190 million each. Now Michigan might not, like, they're threatening to like completely opt out. They're even like kind of threatening, if you read this athletic piece, almost threatening like that they could leave the Big Ten. It's never going to come to that. So Penn State, Michigan, Ohio State are supposed to get like $190 million if this goes through. The next tier down, I believe, is USC and Oregon. And I don't think anybody else is in there. Then everybody else is in the same tier. You have like everybody else. What's that leave? Like 13 schools are all in the same tier, including Indiana.
Yeah. So Ohio State, they're going to get the bigger piece of the puzzle. And that's what they've always wanted, because they have carried the weight for this conference for as long as I can remember. When it comes to the Fox deal, they've been carrying the weight for Big Noon for the entire Big Ten conference. And when it comes to the ratings, Ohio State has carried the load. So they should get a bigger piece of the pie. But I don't like this deal when you're tying yourself to a California type of system. I'm totally skeptical about that, because I'm afraid that they're going to be stuck in a situation to where when college football continues to change, they're not going to be able to change with the times.
I need to go take a shower now. I agreed with Michigan and disagreed with Ohio State. That's just shouldn't happen. But in this case, I have to call a spade a spade.
But
great stuff as always, sir.
Yeah, but at Ohio State, like, what do? I mean, you just can't continue to bleed cash. Like
That's
it's
the
either
thing.
one, it's one or the other. Like you eventually have to say, you know what, we tried, we did our darn best to keep as many sports, but we cannot be continuing to operate at a major. I think it's like $44 million like deficit or something crazy like that because we want to field all of these Olympic sports. So we tried. You either cut them or you have to find an injection of cash somewhere to just keep you afloat. If not, you're going
Exactly.
to be operating at a red, and eventually, I don't know if a athletic department can go bankrupt, but I don't know how that plays out. But when you're bleeding that much money, eventually it has to come to an end one way or the other.
No doubt about it. I really do think it's that simple. It's like whether you either need to have that infusion of cash or you're going to need to cut a lot of non-revenue sports. So it's a tough position. Great stuff as always, my friend. He is Jonah Booker. Thank you, sir.
All right. Talk to you later.
All right, bud. Appreciate it. He's got to get his kid off to school. He's a man of many talents, also a great father. He's Jonah Booker. So thanks to JBook as always. I am going to try and bug him. I don't know what he's doing tomorrow. I am going to try and bug him and get him on the post-game podcast. I haven't bugged him the last couple times. I think, with this being a night game, he's only 2 hours behind us now because Arizona does it right. They don't mess with the, fall back and spring forward nonsense with the clocks. They just stay the same time. They don't mess with that, which I think eventually every state's going to go to. But we're still stuck in the old times here in Ohio. So he's 2 hours behind us. So it'll be a late night podcast, but it won't be as late for JBook. So if he's available, I don't want to say he's not going to be out like painting the town Saturday night, but if he's available, I'll have him on the show for a little bit. We'll also have Garrick Hodge on. He's going to be talking recruiting. Big recruiting weekend for the Buckeyes. Big recruiting weekend. That's one. I was not a big fan of this being a night game. I was like, are you serious? UCLA is one of the night games? Like, come on. So our night games are Ohio, Minnesota, and UCLA. Like, come on, what are we doing here? And it's November, middle of November. Like, it's going to be probably freezing, but it's going to be nice weather. And this gives them another night game to bring in recruits. And a lot of these recruits, their high school seasons are now over. The ones that are still playing in the playoffs can still come to this game because it's a night game, and most of them will be playing Friday night. So if it was, a noon game, they probably couldn't make it. There's like some very important, 3 important official visits from 2026 kids that are going to decide here maybe this weekend or very soon, because signing day is in less than 3 weeks, which kind of gets lost in the shuffle with everything else going on, rightfully so. Yeah, it's the week of the Big Ten championship game. It's ridiculous that they have an early signing period and they put it in December. Have the early signing period in late July, right before camp opens. Do it exactly like college basketball does. College basketball has an early signing period before practice begins. Then they have a late signing period in the spring after the season ends. Do the same damn thing in football. I've said it for years. I said it when they only had one signing day in February, and like they need an early signing period. They need an early signing period. I wrote many columns over the years talking about it. And then they finally do an early signing period. What do? They put it in late December. Then they decide to move it. I'm like, okay, great. They're finally going to put it in late July. They move it to early December, which is, I guess, better than late December, but it's still ridiculous. If you're Ohio State, you're going to be preparing for the Big Ten championship game the same week that you're trying to keep your class intact, flip other guys, everything that it takes with recruiting. So, but it's going to be, I went off on a little tangent there because it is very, very, very stupid that they do it like that. And I think eventually we are going to get that signing day right before camp opens. Too many important people in college football, I think, want that, July signing period instead of this December one. I'm sure Ryan Day does. No doubt about that. And of course, it's a good problem to have. Most teams are not preparing for their conference championship game that week. I get that. It's a small percentage of teams. But why even have that as part of the equation? Again, just take a page out of basketball's book. Do one right before practice starts and then one after the season. It's too simple. Makes too much sense. But this is going to be a big recruiting weekend for Ohio State. 3 guys on official visits on the 2026 class, and then a bunch of key guys in the 2027 class on, of course, unofficial visits, but will be attending the game. So big recruiting weekend. We'll hear from Garrick on the show. I imagine Heater, as long as Heater's available. I love having Heater on to get his perspective. So we'll have Garrick and Heater, hopefully JBook. And then after post-game interviews, of course, Steve Hellwagon and Pat Murphy live from the Horseshoe. I'll begin the show with the 3 biggest things I learned, and we'll take it from there. So what we learned live tomorrow after the game tomorrow night. Hope you guys enjoy the game. Thanks to JBook. Love doing the shows with him. And thank you to everybody who was watching the show and listening to the show. We appreciate it very much. I know you are still basking. Go Bucks.